control your hands.
Recent picture of Richard Allen. His attorneys have done exactly what they set out to do with that picture and that request for him to get some better housing. And at this point, I really don't care. I don't care where he's housed. To be honest with you, he's going to fall under the same rules no matter what facility he's in. He's a high-risk detainee. Okay, so anytime he comes out of his cell, he's going to be black boxed, like you saw. He's got the handcuffs, and then there's a black box that goes over it. A tab that goes through, which goes around a lock and chain, goes around his waist, and it's all also hooked to shackles. Believe it or not, that's for his own safety. They do not. Hey, Olivia. They do not want him to hurt himself. Okay, he's in a state prison, and he's on an administrative segregation order. Okay, he's not on protective custody. So yeah, he's housed where all the ADSEG guys are. All the guys that have problems, they're all pain in the ass. Trust me. Anybody that's ever worked in a jail or prison already knows what ADSEG people are and confinement people are. They're pain in the ass. They really are. So he's not getting any sleep. Those folks are yelling at him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there is nothing the correctional officers can do about it. Nothing. Their philosophy is these inmates says, "What, are you going to lock me up? I'm already locked up." They come out an hour a day and get rec once a week, and attorney visits once a week, and visits once a week.
The main thing that segregation means to me is extreme loneliness and boredom. That's the main thing, loneliness. Don't care how tough you are. I don't care how badass you are. You can Bruce Lee it up all day long. It gets to you, and it hurts like hell.
This stuff with Richard Allen, you have to remember, his attorneys are lawyering. They're trying to get him into the best possible situation, and they're doing a good job. But death row inmates, okay, guys that are waiting to be executed, get visits. So don't tell me that they're denying him visits, because they're not. They're absolutely not denying him visits. Now, for whatever reason, maybe his family can't get there, maybe they don't want to go, who knows? But he can get visits, and he can make phone calls, and it's just like Chirp and all the other.
Not everybody actually can put money on people's books. His wife is somewhat of a refugee, kind of. Like, she doesn't feel comfortable being in Carroll County, and probably for good reason. She's left her job and her house and her life. And so how do you think she can put money on his books? Like, where is she going to get that money from? It's really, not cheap.
Well, somebody has to put money on the account so that he can communicate with his people. So maybe nobody's putting money on his account. But he's not being mistreated, folks. He is not. Here's the difference, okay? You have inmates. Inmates are people that are convicted and sentenced to under 365 days. They stay in a county jail. If they get a year and 1 day, they go to state. Now they're convicts. Totally different thing, okay? Gain time's different. Everything's different. Once you're remanded to the state custody, everything changes. Everything in your life changes when you're an inmate. Now, the high-risk inmates, hi, Joe. The high-risk inmates, they get put on straight lockdown, man. They can't come out. They can't come out at all. And if they have any segregation orders or stuff like that the judge says that they have to mandate, then so be it.
And I'm in prison now. And they put me in segregation for fighting. And being in that cell 23 hours a day, it's a mental challenge in itself. Just being in that cell for so long, it's a psychological thing, Any and everything that we go through is just in that little box, in that little cell. trying to like create things to do, trying to keep them going crazy, like every day, all day. The COs can't really understand, you know what I mean?
He's getting 3 meals a day. He's getting all the medical care he wants, and he's getting rec. Now, if you notice in that picture, he has a rubber band around his wrist. That's not a standard issue item. Okay, so that tells me that he had access to his court paperwork sometime around the time of that picture. So they're not going to let him take anything into his cell. He gets nothing in his cell. His food comes in a styrofoam tray. He gets a styrofoam cup with a drink in it. So he can't have anything in his cell. Nothing. He's a Q15, a deputy. So they know when he eats, when he sleeps, if he talks to anybody, if his attorneys contact him. If he wants to come out and spend his hour looking at his legal paperwork, he can do that. He can do that. They'll set him up right there at the desk, the CO's desk, and he can look through his legal paperwork. But he'd rather go outside. Everybody would. So yeah, they're telling the truth. They're not giving him that paperwork. He can't take it in the cell with him. He'll cut himself with that paper.
Work. And I mean, that's not really enough time to read your legal paperwork anyways. But when you have like your necessities that you have to take care of first, like those are very important.
When you're alone, you tend to reflect on your thoughts a lot. You tend to maybe regress into yourself a lot. You just have nobody. You truly are alone. And anyone who says, you know, I would love to be alone, I don't think they've been alone. So, because when they do, they'll experience it and they'll hate it.
His legal paperwork, but he'd rather go outside. Everybody would. So yeah, they're telling the truth. They're not giving him that paperwork. He can't take it in the cell with him. He'll cut himself with that paper. So he's he's doing fine, guys. Okay, he's stressing out maybe, but he's doing fine. But I say fine, absolutely, move him. Put him wherever he wants. Nothing is going to nothing's going to change. He's going to get treated the same. He's going to fall under the same guidelines and rules. He's going to fall under the same diet. He's going to get the same medical care. And like I said in my community post, he's getting treated better than law-abiding veterans in this country right now. You know, they can't get medical care as quick as he's getting it. No way. And he's getting top shelf care. He's that bad. If he starved himself to where he needs to be hospitalized, they'll do that. They'll take him to an outside hospital.
Mr. Marsh, have any lunch today? Did lunch come? Did you accept lunch? Like to talk to me, Mr. Marsh?
Going to be 2 officers there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching him. And once he's healthy enough, they'll take him back to the same cell that he came out of.
To you yesterday, we're getting ready to send you over to Marion. How do you feel about going to Marion? Can't say. All right, we're going to send you off, and then we'll look for you to come back all healthy again. Okay? Okay. There have been studies that have shown that segregation can have harmful effects on a person's mental health. It's just that occasionally we do see that an offender who has a history of no mental health services does all of a sudden start becoming symptomatic, and we have no other way to explain that except for the fact that they have been housed in this environment for such a long period of time.
Every time you leave the cell, you got to strip.
Terrell, squat golf. Notice at the bottoms of your feet. Other one.
And then you're in handcuffs. You're in shackles.
It doesn't work. Inmates try this all the time. Pretrial detainees try this all the time. It doesn't work. He's playing a game. His attorneys are giving him some good advice. He's playing a game just trying to make his situation as good as he can. Now, if he's cooperating with law enforcement, that changes the game. that changes the game. That may be why he's getting moved. Maybe that was part of his deal. It's like, listen, I'll give you some information, but get me out of this hellhole. Well, he's just going to go from one hellhole to another, you know. Corrections is big business. There's private companies. The county that I worked in, the sheriff turned over the jail to the county, and the county hired a private contractor. So there's no more county employees working in that. Well, no more law enforcement employees working in there. They're county employees now, just like the guys that work at the water treatment.
Did. I used to love it.
Why?
Getting fired up. You have to get in a certain state of mind before you go into a cell and fight another human being.
It's combat.
It's combat. It's kind of like the same feeling you get when you score a touchdown or hit a home run. You got to get pumped up.
When it comes down to using force to enforce rules, regulations, whatever it may be, we will do what we have to do.
And Parks and Recreation, it's the same kind of status, but it's big money. It's big money. Correctional Corporation of America is making fat money in the state of Florida.
The presumption of innocence is the foundation stone of due process. It reflects the burden of the prosecution to prove its case and to overcome reasonable doubt, and means that the accused need not prove anything. United Nations research has shown that a prolonged solitary confinement can cause a range of psychological symptoms, including anxiety, depression, hallucinations, paranoia, and it can also exacerbate pre-existing mental health conditions and lead to the development of new ones. In terms of physical health, being confined to a small space for an extended period of time can lead to a range of health problems, including muscle atrophy, weakened bones, and a weakened immune system. Lack of exposure to natural light and fresh air can also lead to vitamin D deficiency and respiratory problems. These effects can vary from person to person, and some people may be more resilient than others. However, it is generally not advisable to subject someone to solitary confinement for an extended period, especially if they have not yet been convicted of a crime. The United Nations has called for an end to prolonged solitary confinement, stating that it can amount to torture or cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. It's important to consider whether such conditions are necessary and proportionate, and it's generally considered a last resort measure. Therefore, it is essential to explore alternatives to solitary confinement, such as supervised release or electronic monitoring, to ensure a person's safety and well-being while they await trial. Ultimately, it is crucial to ensure that any restrictions placed on a person's freedoms are proportionate to the risks they pose. If Rick Allen is guilty, then he deserves, horrific punishment. Really, I think everybody just, doesn't give a crap about, him because they're just already presuming that he's guilty. But what does it mean to have justice in a case? He hasn't even had a bail hearing yet. Let that sink in.
So Ruckus Rocks is in general correct that moving facilities wouldn't necessarily make him have better conditions. In this circumstance, I don't think that he is correct. And that's due to the Westfield prison being a really crappy place, over 3,000 inmates. And it's actually been scheduled to be demolished. Cass County Jail apparently was just built and houses a little bit over 100 inmates, I believe. That would be a lot better facility. Plus it's right across the street from his attorney. I would like to show you guys why Westville Correctional Facility is probably amongst the crappiest prisons ever.
Okay, we're going to look at the Indeed, because these are people who actually have worked there and what they have to say about it. Okay. Buildings are falling apart. Thus, little to no AC, horrible for staff and offenders at Westville. Management is always in a hurry and rarely is able to assist unless it's an emergency. They don't do much when hiring someone. You could walk in and have the job. Most facilities are corrupt and do not care for the safety and well-being of the officers or the inmates. There's a lot of abuse of power and not enough where inmates think they are in control. It's a very dangerous place to work. I would only recommend if you absolutely need a job. You are also able to advance quickly if that's what you want to do. The state is not trying to pay its workers. When I started in 2018, the department wasn't all that bad. Over the course of time, things progressively got worse. The majority of supervisors cannot be trusted and do not support their staff, and in some cases look for ways to undermine or discipline their subordinates. Mental health of department staff should be a priority, and towards the end it became clear that it was not, as a supervisor told a staff member who was in a crisis that they didn't care and told them to simply keep quiet and do their job. The final straw was when a staff member was in danger of being harmed by inmates, and the supervision refused to assist the officer, again telling them to simply keep quiet and do their job or quit and go home. Safety is a large concern now, as higher security inmates are being housed in lower security facilities who do not have enough means nor the staff to properly handle the higher security inmates. The other major concern in regards to safety is the interpersonal conflicts between the staff, leading you to question who would have your back when you need it. 12 hours of work and a lot of danger. My first day on the job was a major drug bust, and they found over 579 shanks and other sharp objects, and I was scared. Extremely racially biased, misogynistic, there's no job security, and there's no repercussions for captains physically slamming an officer to the ground for no apparent reason. Westfield Correctional Facility has been designated by the federal government as a candidate for demolition. It is literally falling apart in a cramped. Sorry. The facility is unsafe and nasty. Turnover of employees are over 70%. Inept management runs rampant throughout. Due to low wages and antiquated working conditions, I completed my 10 years and literally resigned on my anniversary date. I will look back at this experience as a horrible nightmare. Okay, so that is what people who work there are saying about this facility. Imagine what the inmates actually have to deal with.
This is from December 21st of 2022. So Rick Allen has been arrested since October of 2022. So this article is from when he was in this facility, as far as I am aware. Okay, it says, in October, People's World began receiving letters from our incarcerated readers at Westville Correctional Facility, WCF, asking for help with dehumanizing conditions. Denial of necessary healthcare, withholding of medicine, lack of heat, and undrinkable water were some issues that Jamark Jackson and Harry Harrison reported. WCF was officially opened in 1979. The construction of education and industrial complexes, along with a gymnasium, a multi-purpose building, and a chapel, came during the transition from a mental hospital into a prison. In 1991, an additional 220-bed complex was added. The facility now has the capacity to hold more than 3,400 individuals, according to the Indiana DOC. It is a state-operated prison for adult males. Nearly half, 49% of the prison population, are people of color, slightly higher than the average of 40% in Indiana's jails and prisons as a whole. In 2022, Indiana's General Assembly approved $400 million to demolish and replace the aging facility, but for now it still operates at full capacity. And to hear the opinions of those who live there, the lack of properly maintained infrastructure is life-threatening. According to Harrison, the roof of the B housing unit where he and Jackson live in the medical dormitory has fallen in twice and is going to collapse again, as it has not been repaired. In addition, Harrison reported that over 60 windows are broken, including in the showers. As of November 15th, more than 10 people inside the medical dorm have contacted People's World asking for help in getting the heat turned on, as they cannot thoroughly wash themselves in these conditions. According to the weather data, the average November temperature in Westville was between 35 and 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, deep into December, it's even colder. December 2nd, another inmate, 53-year-old Matthew Chester, died at WCF. Our anonymous source alleges that Matthew's life was ended by the correctional officers, that they beat him to death. The witness is being kept in the hole, slang for administrative segregation, throughout the ongoing investigation. By the way, administrative segregation is also what Rick Allen is on, which is also known as the hole. Okay, so that is solitary confinement. Told of minor repairs taking place and that the heat in the dorm was finally turned on. Warden Kenneth Gann has not responded to multiple requests from our team to investigate the dorm or to comment. Also, Rick Allen's lawyers asked to see where he was being housed, and they were also denied access to be able to investigate the dorm conditions. Denial of medical care is defined as cruel and unusual punishment, which is prohibited under the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. Jason Jones, a licensed clinical social worker who works with the formerly incarcerated in Indianapolis, told People's World, Human rights should not be blocked by prison walls. Many of those suffering inside of Indiana jails and prisons are there as a result of addiction, mental health, or indigence. So this is where he is housed at, and it's a shitty place. Like, it's known to be a shitty place. The Indeed job postings, all the employees that work there, they hate it. It's a shitty place. That one employee said that they found 536 shanks. That's bananas, really. That's crazy. So to say that that is the same as just like any prison, like, I really encourage you all to hold your judgment, because Ronald Logan, he had way more against him, and he looked like a very much guilty man, and he was not treated like this. Even Ashley Garth was let out on bail while she was facing a murder trial. There's just a lot of things that should make you at least hesitate that, like, are you guys okay with this all happening to somebody who's potentially innocent? Potentially he did do it. I hope to God they have the right person and that they're going to get him. But is he going to get off it on technicality because they're sloppy and they're